Hi, Danville. Alan Chilch here, Chief of Police, and we're finally 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better, and we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of the people that we serve. Appreciate your patience on this one. I am trying to monitor it from a different feed. Our primary feed is down. It looks like it is stable on Facebook. So I'm going to apologize if it's a little bit glitchy, but it looks like we're up on YouTube. So this is a live show. So if you have any questions, you can type them into YouTube and Facebook. It looks like I'm getting some of the comments on YouTube or Facebook. So it looks pretty good there. And it looks like we're up solid on YouTube. So thank you all for joining us. I actually have a lot that I'm trying to cram into this one session because there's been a lot that's been going on. And so let me kick off with our evergreen content first. If you have not done this, please sign up for our community warning system. And this is how we alert you for those big events like wildfires and earthquakes and things like that. Although I think if the earth was shaking, you wouldn't need me to tell you. But what do you do to prepare? Download that wildfire preparedness and evacuation guide. That's going to help you to set up and be ready and have a plan for should one of those events happen. We also want you to download the FEMA All Hazards Guide. And again, that's a guide for those infrequent but high-risk events, and it will help you to be prepared. Also go to PG&E's website. On PG&E's website, you've got a lot of information on there on how you can be prepared and what you can do in response to any of those disasters. And it really is PG&E's done really well on that site. I went on it again last week just because a lot of good information there. I wanted to make sure I was up to speed on that. All right, I'm checking out the comments. I appreciate all of you for giving me the comments. That lets me know that it's actually not glitching out as bad as I thought it was on our primary feed here. So I appreciate you guys all commenting. And if you can, always like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification bell. And then on Facebook, just make sure that you've liked our page and then share it with a friend. We appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to the crime. So this week, we're covering 1 week. And it's not a horrible week, but not a great week either. You can always go to communitycrimemap.com. That's where you can download this information for yourself. We upload several times a day there. You can get good information. We do exclude sexual assaults and those sort of things that require an increased element of privacy. But you can also go and you can get sexual offender registry information there as well. All right, collisions. This is a good job, Danville. You did very, very well. And the one that I'm most proud of is the hit and run. We had 0 reported hit and runs last week. That is, of all of the numbers this year, that is the one that seems to be skyrocketing off the charts. And most of it, it's the parking lot stuff that we talk about. On the 23rd, we had a non-injury collision on Diablo Road and southbound 680. And on the 29th, we had an injury collision at the 100 block of Harts Avenue, so right downtown. And if you're looking at the map, there's another little green spot right up there by the community of Diablo. Well, that's actually in Diablo, so that is not a Danville collision, but it's one that's close by. So it did make the map there. Let's look at crime. I did circle a couple that I want to highlight because there's things that we don't typically see. And I'll be honest, I've been lying to you for at least 3 years of doing this show because I talk about part 1 crimes that I'm reporting the part 1 crimes to you. And I report, rape, robbery, homicide, aggravated assault, burglaries, all thefts, vehicle thefts, right? Well, that's not entirely true because there's one more crime category that's there, and that's arson. Traditionally, we get so few of them that we just don't report on them because it's nothing worth a trend. We may get one year, maybe one the next. That's really about it. So we don't. But we did have one this last week, so I did want to put that up there. The only violent crime was an aggravated assault, and I'll cover that in because there was quite a bit that happened there, and I'll actually cover it in our arrest log information. We had 1 aggravated assault, 4 thefts, and we had the arson. So we did and you'll see a common theme of shoplifting here. On the 26th, we had a shoplifting of merchandise from an open business on the 400 block of Harts Avenue. So this was a group of 3 ladies that went in and stole from the shop owner while the shop owner was there. The shop owner noticed the theft immediately after the people had left and reported it to the police. And what I'm happy to say is the shop owner has really, really good video. So we're going to work hard to try to see if we can't solve that case for our business owner. On the 26th, we had an illegal fire, and this was the arson. And that is the circle on the right. You don't often see that icon on the map here, but that's the one that looks like a little bit of a fire in a red square, and that's inside that red circle all the way to the right, kind of off the old Blackhawk Road area. And there's a trail that goes up to the open space there, so that could be a very, very bad place to start a fire. So that was an illegal fire on the trail near St. Tropez Court. No one in custody on that. On the 26th, we had another shoplift of merchandise from Bevmo. And on the 27th, and I'm going to cover a little bit of this, we had a distraction theft of jewelry from a lady on Diablo Road in Communitas there. And we've covered it in the past. I don't have video or details on this one, but I do want to show you something later, just as a reminder for distraction thefts, because it occurred in exactly the same way. On the 28th, we had a shoplift of merchandise from Walgreens on San Ramon Boulevard. And then on the 28th, we had an arrest of a man for striking another with an object while fighting at a party. And that's an aggravated assault. So you can't use an object to strike someone. If you're just fighting, that's okay. But once you use an object, that becomes a felony assault. All right. Again, as reminded, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. It's going to be a little challenging, but it looks like I'm able to get them all. I look and I see a lot of hellos and whatnot. So I appreciate all of you for coming and joining. But if you have questions, throw them in the chat and I'll try to get to them live during the show. All right. So I'm going to cover distraction thefts. Now, I'm going to play a video. It's not the video of the theft that just occurred, but this is one in the Costco parking lot that we have permission to use. And the two pictures you're seeing are the two camera angles you're going to see. You'll see that there's a man seated in it's like a stroller, one of those electric carts. And the SUV that's on the right side pulls up and a lady gets out and immediately comes up and starts to touch the man. And so what I want you to do is see how quickly this happens and how quickly there is contact. So let's watch the video. All right, so you'll see the car pulls up, the man's sitting there waiting. He's really not doing much of anything. And then she will get out, and she actually gets out of the back left seat and immediately goes up to the man, starts holding his hands, and she's starting to pull things off of him right now. And you'll see that it doesn't take long, but she's touching him the entire time. And a lot of conversation, and they'll try to use words. They'll try to give blessings and things that really, outside of stealing from someone, actually sound pretty nice, right? Like, I wish you well, wish you the best of luck, those sort of things. All very good, but they do nothing to keep you safe. So now you'll see a little bit of a different angle. And the point is as you're watching this, what I want you to think of is someone approaches you like this, and you don't know if they're not your friend. If it's your friend, and, maybe you're from a social area that you give hugs and kisses on the cheeks and all that, by all means, go do it. But if this is someone that you don't know and they're grabbing you and touching you and tugging at you, that's not acceptable. Make sure you have the right to your personal physical autonomy. But you can see she just keeps working and working, and she's talking the whole time. And really, she's taking his jewelry from him. She puts fake jewelry on, takes the good jewelry off, and then gets in the car and off she goes. And this is very common, and we're seeing crews of people do exactly this. And we also see that it's the same people that are going in and doing some of these shoplifts as well. And so we're really asking if you can kind of be on the lookout, just really be aware of your surroundings. We are working hard to solve these. Our detectives are engaged on this, but this is something that you all can be on the lookout for. All right, so let's go over the arrest log. Quite a bit to go over in there. All right, on the 23rd, we had an arrest of a man for possessing methamphetamines in the parking lot of 85 Railroad Avenue, and that's just good old-fashioned police work. An officer doing good to be proactive on the street there. On October 26th, we had an arrest of a man for a warrant out of San Jose, and that was on the 100 block of Cameo Drive. And then on the 28th, we had 3 different arrests/citations, all belonging to a party that took place on the 1700 block of Camino Ramon. The first was an arrest of a juvenile for minor in possession and resisting arrest. The second was we cited a minor for hosting the party with alcohol and minors, and that's the social host violation, and we'll cover that in detail later, at least the ordinance. And then the third was while there was a fight, there was one person that assaulted another with an object, and so that person was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. All right, and I think we've got another page here. It's unfortunate. I would love to have, I always talk when we go out to the middle schools that the best day in law enforcement is when we issue no citations and we make no arrests, because in order for us to make arrests, that means people had to be victimized, right? And that's not what we want to see. So we'll look at the arrest log, and this is the DUI arrest log. On the 26th, we had an arrest at Diablo Road and Tyler Court. On the 28th, we had an arrest southbound I-680 at Sycamore. And then on the 29th, the next night, We had an arrest northbound 680 at Sycamore. Now, I don't want you to think because northbound 680, southbound 680 is there that our officers are sitting on the freeway looking for DUIs. We understand that our resources that we all pay for here in the town, they're directed to the town. Our CHP partners do a great job of getting up on the freeway. Just know that that is the location where the stop was made. It may not be where an initial violation occurred. The car was probably on the city streets. The officer noticed some violations, and then when it was safe and appropriate to do so, made an enforcement stop and then came upon what they saw or believed to be a drunk driver and then did their investigation from there. All right. So those are our arrest logs. It looks like we're getting in some so Lou, I'm assuming this is for our distraction theft. Lou asks, can the license plate be read? Lou, in that particular case, it can, and we have license plate cameras around there. We can't read them off the cameras in Costco, but this is a good example. We don't need businesses to have license plate readers. It'd be great, but we don't need them to spare that expense. We also don't need homeowners to have license plate cameras and all that. We just need to know what the car looks like and about when and where it was at, because then we back it out from there and we look for that car on our license plate cameras. So Lou, you get the kudos for having the good investigative mind to figure that one out. Sue says, why didn't he start his scooter and knock him down? Now, Sue, this is the Monday morning quarterback that we all get the luxury of. So on that distraction theft, and the reason they're so good, now you have to remember, this is their job. They are very good at stealing and distracting. And they're so good at it that the person that's being ripped off, they don't actually realize they're being ripped off. And that's why our advice is do not let people violate your personal space that you don't know. Clearly if my wife or my sons come up, my dad, they come up, hugs all day long, right? Stranger I've never met stops their car in the middle of the road, gets out and starts grabbing on me. I have a problem with that, right? That's not good. And so my radar is going up. My eyes are going up. Hey, please don't touch me. How can I help you? You can help someone without having to touch them, and they certainly shouldn't be violating your space. So that's why he probably didn't knock it over. Now, if the person came up and said, give me your wallet, give me your watch, then maybe the scooter is an option, right? Maybe there's some defense there. But he simply didn't know that that's what was happening. Sue, I like the back and forth that you and Lou are having on this. All right, so I do want to give an update. There was a robbery at one of our banks. I know typically on the show I report the crime that happened last week, but this is significant. It occurred yesterday, and I do want to give some details out on that. All right, so yesterday, Danville officers, it was about 12:30 or so that we responded out to the Wells Fargo Bank, and this is the one on Camino Tasajara, so 3400 Camino Tasajara, kind of over by the Safeway Shopping Center. In that, a light-complected black male, early 20s, about 5'7", 150 pounds, wearing all black clothing, a beanie, and a surgical mask, entered the bank and used a note to commit the robbery. Danville PD officers, our investigations unit, Valley Station, all responded, and the sheriff's crime lab assisted as well. Ultimately, the suspect fled on foot and was out of the area well before officers were able to get set, but we are working, and we are working hard. I did have some questions that came in. It was pretty interesting. There was someone that had a comment that they would like to see more police in the area. There's been a population increase in East Danville, and they want to see more officers. And to that, I'll say thanks, kudos to our sheriff, because recognizing that there's been a steep population increase, he worked very hard with our board of supervisors to get a lot of positions approved. So this isn't just a Danville thing. This is an entire county thing where there are more deputies on the street every day at every shift. And so it is a 24/7, 365 increase in staff. For example, there used to be 3 primary deputies on for the Alamos station, the Valley station. Now there's 4, and that's all day long. And that's in addition to the resources that we have in Blackhawk, the resources in Diablo, our partners that we have in San Ramon. So when there's an incident that occurs at Crow and Camino Tasajara, you can guarantee there's the capability of having a large police presence there fairly quickly. And so it takes a little bit of effort, but we're grateful that the sheriff put the effort in to make sure that we have those resources to respond effectively and to crime and protect the victims. So I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was an interesting observation by our resident to point out that there is more people. And what do we do when there's more people? We need more services. All right. So there have been an increase in juvenile parties in town, and I want to cover the social host ordinance. We cover it probably about twice a year. We do put it in our quarterly newsletter. I think the quarterly newsletter just came out. It comes to every household in Danville. And so we do put that information in there. We cover it on the show. I think we covered it about this time last year, and then we also covered it in April. So we do push the information out. And then we also do social media posts as well. And I want to, please, if there's one thing you take from this whole show, please pass this on. The police department will absolutely cite on these. In fact, I just sent an email to staff saying if there is not effective enforcement done, I really need to know the reason why, because there has to be a compelling reason why. This ordinance is designed by our town council, implemented and update to include marijuana, I think back in 2019, because we know that these parties where alcohol is served, where there's a lot of kids, marijuana is served, that it tends to devolve to fights and kids drinking and driving and all the things that we know that create an instant in someone's life that results in a lifelong tragedy. We've seen deaths from this, and we don't want to see it. So we're going to cover the social host ordinance. Please pass it on. We do have a social host ordinance, and it really is very specifically around kids, parties, and alcohols. And so let's look at what the prohibitions are. And so it prohibits gatherings of 5 or more persons under the age of 21. So these are minors with alcoholic beverages and or cannabis. It applies to private residences, properties, places, or premises. No possession or consumption of alcohol or cannabis by anyone under 21 years old. And what is the juvenile's responsibility? They're responsible and they're prohibited from consuming alcohol, cannabis, and those such things. So what is the goal? The goal is to keep people from serving alcohol. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing, because the thought is that parents are out there serving, or a child who is at the house is serving this to people. It doesn't necessarily mean that. You simply have to host this gathering where it's allowed. And so it could be good faith parents saying, hey, we just want to host an event. We've got our kids coming over. But then if you start seeing kids come in with alcohol and they're all drinking and you're there and you're allowing this to occur, you're in violation of the social host ordinance. It doesn't have to be at your house either. You notice how there's any place, premise. If you're out at a park and you're organizing this event and you're hosting it and allowing it to happen and kids are drinking, kids are smoking marijuana, 5 of them, that's in violation. And it is something that we ask our officers to look for. They know to look for it, and we will take action on it. So let's look at what the penalties are. All right, if you're an adult, violation is considered an infraction, could be a misdemeanor, and we could charge it at the discretion of our city attorney. And then penalties are going to be opposed to the maximum extent, and that's whatever our ordinance is or what the state law would be on that. For juveniles, what we do is we will cite them to our juvenile diversion program. Now, we've talked about juvenile diversion before. We send a whole host of cases into our juvenile diversion program. It's managed and handled by our school resource officers. What they do is, instead of sending them to juvenile probation, where a case would be filed, we handle it in-house. And so what we typically do is we monitor the child. We meet with the parents. If there's counseling sessions that are needed, we'll send them out for counseling. If there is education opportunities, we'll do that. And it usually comes in the form of writing research papers on like the effects of alcohol, why we shouldn't do these things, and whatnot. So we really try to keep it as an educational opportunity. But if we see repeated offenses, for sure, we're going to go and we're going to ratchet it up to not only social host, but contributing to the delinquency of minor and so forth. This is a big deal. This is not something that should be taken lightly, and we need people to pay attention to it. All right, I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. All right, don't see any on Facebook. Don't see any on YouTube. All right, so I'm going to kick off. We're going to do 2 weeks. First week, I'm going to do e-bikes. Next week, I'm going to cover scooters. And these are the electric scooters, not the little razor scooters where you do your foot. It's going to be the electric scooters. But in order to understand the laws around e-bikes, we first have to know what e-bikes are. And there's 3 different classifications for e-bikes. The first one is, you see these quite a bit. They're pedal assist, so they don't work independently. It's not like a throttle. So you have to be pedaling for the motor that's on the bike to help you. and the assist stops at 20 miles per hour. It's not that the speed limit on the bike is 20 miles an hour. If you can pedal faster, you're going to go faster, but that's the limitation of the bike itself. And there's typically a label on it that'll tell you what the classification is. Now, Class 2 bike, this one does have a motor. It can exclusively propel based on the motor. You don't even need to pedal. It's not going to assist beyond 20 miles an hour, though. So that's the cap on that. Class 3, this is the highest class. There is a motor. It's only assisted while pedaling, but the assistance can go all the way up to 28 miles an hour. It's capped at that, and it is usually equipped with a speedometer. Now, the issues are, if you alter the vehicle, and I'm aware that there's some e-bikes that look more like dirt bikes. And what they do is they're actually capable of going 35 or 40 miles an hour, but they put a limiter on it to keep it at 20 or 28 miles an hour. So they keep it within a class of e-bike. Because if it's not in a class of e-bike, then it's not authorized for the road. So like a motorcycle, a dirt bike is not allowed. An electric dirt bike that goes 40 miles an hour, not allowed on the road. It's just simply not allowed. Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes are allowed on the road. They are allowed on bike paths. But if you then alter that vehicle, if you alter the battery, in one of them, the designer actually designs it so that all you have to do is cut this little relay loop. You cut it, and it actually opens up the vehicle so it can go 35 and 40 miles an hour. And those are the ones you see really zipping through town really, really fast. All right. So Class 3 e-bikes, the operator must be 16 years of age or older, so can't be under 16, and you have to wear a helmet regardless of age. And you see some of them that are actually the two-seat, the kind of the big flat ones with the two-seaters. Both the driver and the passenger have to wear helmets. And if you look, that's our e-bike team, and you see all our officers, regardless of speed, are going to wear helmets because that is just the smart thing to do to make sure we're protecting our noggin. Skip that one. All right. Let's take a look at this. So e-bike classification. So this is what we were talking about. You can't tamper with the bike. It's illegal to modify the bikes. And if it does, it can change it into a different classification or completely keep it out of a classification. The other thing is it's just going to be flat out dangerous. If you are working on that battery, you could cause a fire. It could cause injury, and it's not recommended by the manufacturers to do that. The hazards that we're seeing and we're getting reports from all of you, and we're seeing it ourselves, is we're seeing these e-bikes go the wrong way. We're seeing them blow stop signs, stop lights. We're seeing them make, cross the road in ways that you're not supposed to. And here is the rule. If you're in an e-bike and you're on the roadway, you have to follow the rules of the road. You're not allowed to, drive the wrong way. Not allowed to run stop signs and stop lights. You have to stop at stop signs. So everything, the easy way to filter it is, if you wouldn't do it in a car, you shouldn't do it on a bike. And that's really the easy way. You're subject to all the same laws as a vehicle when you're on the roadway. All right. I'm going to check and see if there's any. So Archie asks a question. Archie says, Chief, do you need a motorcycle helmet if you exceed 20 miles per hour on an e-bike versus a bike helmet? No, you don't need a motorcycle helmet. So you don't need a DOT helmet. You just need a bike helmet for the Class 3 bicycles. All right. Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat. I don't see any, but I get to do something really cool. I see one that just came up, but I get to do something really cool tonight. I actually get to go upstairs to our Citizens Academy. I think we're in our 5th week, Citizens Academy. We just did our 2nd weekend, and it was a lot of fun. So we get to go out and hang out with residents, show them what it is we're doing, why it is that we do what we do, and really get to meet them on a personal level. Selfishly, what I use it for is, one, I want to kind of cast our vision out to more people. I want people that know what the Danville Police are about, know what we do, supporting us and casting out our vision in the public. So that's goal number 1. The second one is, this is my twice-a-year focus group where I say, hey, this is what we do. Can you tell us what we can do to improve? What can we do to better serve the community? And I get some of the best feedback from there. So that's what I like to see. So in about 10 minutes, I get to go up and check that out and enjoy that. So Robin Brigante asks, do you give tickets for infractions for bikes? Yes, we do. And if you know me at all, you know that I ride a bike, and that usually then generates the complaint to the bike chief because people think that that I'm going to show some sort of favoritism, and that just isn't the case. The bottom line is yeah, if you're doing something that can cause harm to someone else, running stoplights, stop signs, we're going to enforce that. We don't want to see people get hurt. I'll say that most of the time that I have seen bicycle accidents, most of the time in Danville, and I don't have the statistics, but most of the time that I see it and I review it, the cyclist is actually at fault. And I'm actually seeing if I could pull up a video. I don't have it here. You know what I'll do is I'll play another video real quick, and next week that'll show a couple of cyclists doing wrong. And when I say wrong, it means just not riding defensively, maybe not obeying a stop sign or a stoplight. And I think you'll get a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. But when we do see those violations, we do cite for them. And it's kind of unfortunate because when we see the accident, which is really what we're trying to avoid, when we see that accident, not only is the cyclist usually the one that's going to the hospital, but then they may also be the one that gets the at fault for the collision. And so that can be pretty frustrating. All right, I'm going to extend this here. So Sue has a question. I was at one of the accidents on Harts the other day in front of Mountain Mike's Pizza. Car pulled out of Mountain Mike's parking lot, collides with a kid on a motorcycle. Both get cited. Well, Sue, usually what we try to do is find out what we call it the primary collision factor. So when a collision occurs, what the officer will do is they'll go out and they'll interview the people that are involved. They'll look at the physical evidence. So where did the car and the bike collide with one another? So did the car hit the bike from the side? Did the bike maybe collide into the side of the car? And then we'll look at the witness statements and we'll kind of put together the accident from there and determine what relevant vehicle code sections applied, right? So if it's in the roadway, all of them apply. If it's in a parking lot, there really aren't any. And then we will make a determination as to what the cause of the collision was. In other words, who was at fault from there. So with the information you gave and not knowing that accident in particular, I don't know. And frankly, if I did, it wouldn't be something I would put out publicly, only because it's private to those two people involved in the collision. But it is not often that we find both parties at fault in an accident. It's very, very rare. And typically, not always, but typically we don't cite the person at fault for the accident. Sometimes we do if it's a very egregious violation, but typically the accident gets investigated. Whoever is at fault, that information goes to DMV and they get on their record, they'll get put as at fault in an accident. We don't feel that it's necessary to go over the top of that with a ticket as well. The accident itself is usually sufficient. All right, I'm looking to see if there's any other comments. I don't see any other comments. And so I will cover our evergreens real quick. Please sign up for the community warning system by the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. This is how you're notified of those emergency events that you need to take action to. And also download the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide. That will give you information on what you can do to be prepared should an accident happen. Also, go to the PG&E website. There's a lot of good information on having a safety plan and what you can do to keep your family safe. And then download the FEMA All Hazards Guide to make sure that you are prepared should a infrequent but very high-risk event happen. And it's funny because I downloaded the FEMA Guide, I think, for the first time in 2018 or 2019. And they actually had in there instructions for how to prepare for, survive, and recover from a novel pandemic. And they also have, a nuclear event. And I'm looking at those two and I'm like, why are these even in here? These aren't going to happen. And little did I know, within about a year, certainly one of them happened. Let's hope and pray the other one doesn't. Danville, I appreciate all of you for joining in. If you can just give me another thumbs up or a heart or, anything that kind of keeps the algorithm going in a positive direction, that would be great. That's what keeps these shows going. If you didn't get it live, on the very same page, the YouTube page, just go back and watch the mayor's Town Talks with the Mayor. Very good. A lot of information on planning, the arena, the housing numbers, all of that. If you have any interest in how Danville is going to look in a few years or 10 years and what we're doing with housing, very interesting. Please go watch that. And then on Facebook, you'll see on our our main Facebook page, the Town of Danville page. There's information on that as well. Danville, I appreciate all of you joining us. I'm 10:10, which means I'm off duty, but I'm always 10:8 in service to all of you. Have a good night.